Hello everyone, myself Ashish Dikshit from St. Paul Senior Secondary School, and today I will teach you English literature of class 6th, and this is chapter number 16, and the name of the chapter is The Little School Boy. So first of all, let's talk about the central idea of this poem. Actually, the theme of this poem is based on the mentality of small children. You know, in summer season, when the summer vacations start, children are very excited about their vacations, their holidays. More than 1 month they get as a holiday, and their schedule, their daily routine, their timetable, that is totally changed. They wake up late in the morning, sleep late at night, no homework, no classwork. Whatever they want they can eat, wherever they want they can go. There is no pressure on them of the parents, as it is seen that there is a lot of pressure of the parents on children regarding their studies. But in summer vacations, parents also become lenient for their children. They do not want to disturb the leniency. They do not want to disturb the life of their children in summer vacations. They want to give them full freedom so that they can spend their life as they want, at least for 1 month. Well, afterwards, when the school reopens, the children are sent to school. So reluctantly they go to school. They don't want to go to school, but forcefully they are sent to school. They don't want to wake up early in the morning, because their habit of waking up early in the morning has totally changed now. So they will have to wake up early in the morning when the school is opening after summer vacation. They will have to get ready for the school early, because the school bus will come, and if they get late, then there will be a problem for them to go to school. So their whole routine again changes, and this is problematic for the children. So in this poem, the child is expressing his pain. Child is expressing his pain of going to school. He wants leniency, he wants freedom, he wants to spend his life as he was spending his summer holidays, and he doesn't want to go to school after summer vacations. He says that in summer he will not go to school, and he should be given this freedom that he should stay at home. Okay, so that he can enjoy his life as he was enjoying in summer vacations. So this is a theme of the poem, that the child is expressing that he didn't want to go to school, and now he will have to go to school. So he is comparing himself with a caged world, because children come to school, students come to school, they sit in the class, and the teacher keeps a sharp observation of all the students regarding their discipline. So children will be under control, and they will not be given that kind of freedom as they were getting at home, as they were getting in summer vacations. So that freedom will finish now. That's why the child is in tension. Well, before commencing this poem, I just want to tell you the figure of speech which has been used. The figure of speech which has been used in this poem. Well, let's talk about first of all figure of speech. So the first question is, what is figure of speech? I know this is a new term for you, figure of speech, but without figure of speech, a poem cannot be written. It is very important to make the poem impressive. Actually, these are the terms which make a poem impressive. These are the terms by which the poems are written, poetry is written. Okay, so these terms are called figure of speech, which decorate the dialect, which decorate the language of a poem. That is called figure of speech. Okay, so there are three types of figure of speech which have been used by the poet in writing this poem, and the first one is imagery. So now the question is, what is imagery? Okay, it is a vivid descriptive language which appeals to one or more of the senses. There are 5 types of senses, as you all know. Okay, and this is sense of touch, sense of taste, sense of smell, sense of hearing, sense of touch, sense of taste, sense of smell, sense of hearing, and sense of sight. So now I will give you examples of these senses. This is called imagery. It is a vivid descriptive language which appeals to one or more of the senses. So let's talk about first of all sense of touch. See the example. She laying her hand on soft satin fabric. When you touch something, then you come to know whether it is rough or it is soft. Okay, it is rough or it is soft. So by touch you come to know that it is cold or it is hot. You tell this by touching a thing. So here if you touch this surface, then you can say that it is smooth. So this is all because of the sense of touch. Okay, the first thing is sense of touch. Now the second thing is sense of taste. Okay, sense of taste by tongue. Okay, sense of taste by tongue. Okay, let's discuss about the example of sense of taste. The sweet and juicy oranges are cold. The sweet and juicy oranges are cold. How did you come to know that the oranges are sweet and juicy? By taste. When you tasted them by your tongue, then you came to know that oranges are sweet and juicy. So this expresses sense of taste. Okay. Now let's talk about the next example. That is sense of smell by nose. Okay, sense of smell. For example, he inhaled the aroma means smell of prepared coffee. He inhaled the aroma of prepared coffee. It means whenever any smell is coming from anywhere, then you come to know that this thing is being cooked or this thing is burning. So this is all because of the sense of smell. Okay, so inhale the aroma of prepared coffee. It means the smell of coffee is coming. It expresses the sense of smell. Clear? Now let's talk about sense of hearing. The children were screaming and shouting. The children were screaming and shouting. So, screaming and shouting. How did you come to know? By your ears. By your ears you came to know that this is screaming and shouting. Okay? Any sound that you hear by your ears, that is called the sense of hearing. You know, we have 5 senses in our body. So I am discussing about those 5 senses. Let's discuss about the next one is sense of sight. Okay? There was dim and darkness in the room. There was dim and darkness in the room. It means when you came into the room, you saw that there was dim light, there was darkness in the room. You came to know by your vision, by your eyes. And eyes are the symbol of sense of sight. Okay, so you saw that and you came to know that there is darkness in the room, and this is possible with the help of sense of sight. So the poet has used this figure of speech in writing this poem, and that is imagery. Okay, the third line of this poem: the distant huntsman winds his horn. The sound of horn symbolizes imagery, hearing. Okay, by hearing, he came to know that the horn is being blown. Clear? The next figure of speech that the poet has used that is alliteration. Alliteration, repetition of the similar consonant sound. The repetition of the similar consonant sound is called alliteration. For example, she saw some special people there. She saw some. She saw some. S, and S. Consonant sound. The sound is matching. S, and S. So the repetition of the similar consonant sound, that is called alliteration. Okay, and this is the fourth line of the poem. The skylark sings. So, sky S and sings S. This is alliteration. Okay. Next is metaphor. The poet has also used metaphor for writing this poem. Okay, what is metaphor? Metaphor is a figure of speech in which two things are compared, but the words of comparison are not used. In simile, one figure of speech is also there, simile, in which the words of comparison are used, so, like, and as. But in metaphor, the words of comparison are not used. For example, but there will be a comparison. Okay, for example, the camel is the ship of the desert. The camel is the ship of the desert. Here I am comparing camel with ship. Both are having the same qualities. One common point is there. Camel is used to carry goods and people, and ship is also used to carry people and goods. Okay. So this is the common quality in both of them, and I am comparing camel with ship. So when a comparison is there between two things, and the words of comparison, so, like, as are not used, then that figure of speech is called metaphor. So the poet has used this figure of speech in fourth paragraph when he compares himself with a caged bird. Okay. Now let's begin the poem. Well, how do you feel when you have to get up early in the morning to go to school, especially in winter? Have you thought about it? Really, I know that you would never like to go to school in winter season, and after summer when your schools reopen, you would never like to go to school because your whole timetable will change. So let's begin the first paragraph. I love to rise in a summer morn. Morn means morning. Morning. When the birds sing on every tree. The distant means far off. Huntsman. Huntsman means hunters. Winds means blow. His horn. Horn, which is used to create a sound. Okay, by oral activity. Okay, when you blow in that horn will create a sound. And the skylark sings. Skylark is a kind of bird which sings with me. Oh, what sweet company. Well, the time is of summer season. The poet loves it very much. He gets up in the morning, in summer morning, and he enjoys it a lot. He enjoys to rise in the morning when the birds sing on every tree. We have seen that in summer season, especially in the morning time, you can hear the chirping sound of the birds on almost every branch of various trees. Okay. The children love that sound very much. The poet also likes it. The poet says that he loved that sound very much when he rises in the morning and he hears the sound of chirping birds. He likes that very much. He also hears the sound of the horn which is being blown by the huntsmen because they are hunting any wild animal. Okay, and he also likes the song of the bird skylark. Skylark is a kind of bird. So he also starts singing. The poet also starts singing with skylark, and he loves that company, the company with skylark. Somewhere skylark is singing and the poet is also singing with skylark. So he loves it very much. The poet loves very much rising in the summer morning, and he loves very much to hear the song of the birds which are chirping on various trees, and he is also hearing the sound of the horn which is being blown by the hunters. And he loves to sing in the company of skylark. When he also sings with skylark, when skylark is singing, he loves it very much. Okay, so the third line of this paragraph is imagery, which I explained to you, the figure of speech, imagery. So in third line, the distant huntsman winds his horn. It means that the poet is understanding the sound of horn by hearing. Okay, and the sound of skylark also he is hearing. So this is sense of hearing. Okay. In the second paragraph, but to go to school in summer morn. Morn means, I told you in the previous paragraph, the very first line, morn means morning. But to go to school in a summer morn, oh, it drives all joy away. Now his summer vacations got over, and he would have to go to school. Now he is thinking that, oh my God, I will have to go to school again. How I will change my routine I was enjoying a lot the changed routine. It means from a traditional way I was living a different life for almost one or more than 1 month. I was enjoying my summer holidays, but when the school reopened, I will have to go to school. So that time has come now. His summer vacations are over now and he will have to go to school. So he is thinking about it all, that he will have to go to school. Oh, it drives all joy away. So the joy he was getting, the happiness he was getting till now, he was enjoying the song of Skylark. He was also singing along with Skylark, and he was enjoying the sound of the horn. He was also enjoying the sound of the chirping birds. This all joy he was getting will go away from him, will be snatched from him, and will drive away from him. So he is thinking about that condition. Under a cruel eye, outward. Outward means useless, exhausted. The little ones spend the day in sighing. Sighing means deep breath of sorrow, deep breath of sadness, and dismay. Dismay means unhappiness, sadness. So he says when the school will reopen, he will have to go to school, and the joy, the whole joy, lot of joy he was getting, the lot of happiness he was getting, that will go away, and he will have to go to school. And in school, you know what is the condition of the school? Your teachers keep the children under our keen observation so that they may not create any indiscipline. We also support some type of freedom, but not that kind that all the children should go out of control. So this is really bad. So teachers keep a keen observation of the students. They keep an eye, sharp eye on the students. So the poet is saying that he will also sit in the classroom and he will be under sharp observation, cruel observation of the teacher. He is comparing the observation of the teacher with cruelty. Okay, so he is saying that the children will be under cruel observation of the teacher. He himself will be under the cruel observation of the teacher. In school, the little ones spend the day in sighing and dismay. So the little children, they will sit in the class. He is not talking only about himself. Instead, he is talking about all the students. So he is saying that all the little students, all the little children will spend their day in the school, will spend their day in the class under the cruel observation of the teacher, and they can do nothing. They can do nothing, but they can only sigh. Means they can take only deep breath of distress, disappointment, and they will feel unhappy with that. They will feel unhappy with that. So overall, the paragraph is that now the summer vacations have got over, and the poet will have to go to school now, and because of going to school, the joy he was getting, lot of enjoyment he was doing, lot of entertainment he was doing, and he was enjoying his life a lot. So this everything will go away from him. He will not hear the song of the bird. He cannot sing with skylark. He cannot hear the sound of the horn. He cannot hear the chirping of the birds also. So he is disappointing with that a lot. And this joy will go away from him, will drive away from him, and he will be under control of the teacher, cruel control of the teacher in the school, and all the children who are very little, they will be sitting in the class all the day, and they can do nothing, only they can take deep breath of depression, distress, disappointment, and sorrow. Okay, I think both the paragraphs are clear to you. This is related to all the children, and children can better understand the situation. Although we all have passed from such kind of situations, but recently children can better understand it. Well, in the next paragraph, then at times I drooping sit. Now the poet is in the class, he is sitting in the class. Okay, so he is saying, then at times I drooping sit. It means when he will be in the class, he will be drooping. Drooping means bending downwards. Okay, bending downwards. So the poet is saying that he will be sitting in the class and he will be bending down with disappointment and sadness, and spend many and anxious hours. So from 7 to 1 or 8 to 1, this is the timing of the school usually. So the poet is saying that he will sit in the class and he will be sitting there with a lot of disappointment, with a lot of sadness. So he will be sitting there with bending shoulders. Okay, his shoulders, his body posture would be expressing that he is very sad, okay, and disappointed. So with lot of disappointment, he will be sitting in the class, he will be bending downwards, and he will have to spend number of hours. Anxious hours means worried hours, disappointed hours. So he will have to spend his disappointed hours in the school. He will be worried in the school. He will be disappointed in the school, and he will be sitting there in the classroom. Nor in my book can I take delight. Sometimes children, when they read new books, they get excited and they learn many things from the book, and they feel delight, lot of happiness in reading the books. But when they are sent forcefully to the school, they can learn nothing. Their mind will be absent. They will be thinking about the joy that they got in their summer vacations the whole day, and they will not get enjoyment in reading the books. Nor in my book can I take delight. The poet is saying that he will not get happiness in reading the books, nor sit in learning's bower. Bower means school. And in the school, he will not learn anything. The poet is saying that he will not learn anything in the school. Why? Because he has been sent to the school forcefully. So, because of the force, because of the unwillingness, the poet will not learn anything there in the school. He will not enjoy the reading of the book. He will not feel entertained in the school. He will not enjoy the classroom, his presence in the classroom, and he will not learn anything in the school because he is not ready to accept anything from the school that time, because he is missing a lot his summer vacations. So he will be in the classroom, but his body will be present there, his mind will be absent. He will not learn anything. His mind is full of dismay, his mind is full of sorrow, his mind is full of distress. So he cannot learn anything there in the classroom, and he cannot enjoy the reading of books also. Worn through with the dreary shower. Shower means bombardment. Okay, but here is not bombardment. Shower of rain also there. Shower of lecture. Here it is shower of lecture. Lecture by the teacher. Well, dreary means boring. Okay, so what means to face? He will have to face. He will have to pass. He will have to go through the boring lectures of the teachers. He is saying that he will have to face the boring lectures of the teachers. The teachers will come to the classroom, they will give their boring lectures to the students, and the students will have to listen that, and they will feel bored in hearing that boring lecture of the teacher. Okay, I think this paragraph is clear to you. Well, I repeat this once again. Then at times I drooping sit, means with a lot of disappointment, the child, the poet will be sitting in the classroom Means unwillingly, reluctantly, he will be sitting in the classroom, he will be bending downwards, and he will spend number of hours in such kind of disappointment. And he will not feel delighted, he will not feel happiness in reading the books. He will not learn anything in the school because he is not ready for that. His mind is full of sorrow. So this sorrow is blocking the learning capacity. He will not learn anything in the classroom. And he will not learn anything in the school. And he will have to pass from a situation that he doesn't like. And what is that? He will have to face the boring lectures of the teachers. He will have to listen the boring lectures of the teachers. He is feeling bored hearing the lectures of the teacher. Okay, let's begin the full paragraph. How can the bird that is born for joy sit in a cage and sing? Cage in which the birds are kept, parrots are kept, animals are kept in the zoo. I think you understand what is cage. Okay, it is a temporary house. It is a kind of jail for the birds when the birds are free. Where is their house? Their house is that open sky where they can fly high in the sky. They can sit in this branch, they can sit on that branch. This is for them. Open sky for them. We should not keep them inside a cage. It means we are taking their freedom from them. Okay, and from somebody, if you are taking freedom, this is a great sin. Okay, so here the poet is comparing himself with a caged bird. So I told you one thing, that is metaphor. In this line, the poet has used metaphor. The camel is a ship of the desert. In the same way, he is comparing himself with a caged bird, a bird inside a cage. Okay, how can the bird that is born for joy sit in a cage and sing? Now if you say, you should be happy. You are saying to a student that you should be happy. Even in the classroom, in the school, and the student who has just come after spending his summer holidays, can he be happy? You can understand it well. Okay, he will never be happy. He will be missing his summer vacations. So the poet is saying that if you keep a bird inside a cage and you say, sing now, the bird cannot sing. If you keep a bird in a cage and you expect that the bird will sing, no, the bird will never sing with happiness. So the same situation is there, the similar situation is there with the poet also. He is comparing the classroom and he is comparing himself with a bird. So it is metaphor, figure of speech, metaphor. Okay. So he is saying that he cannot be happy sitting in that classroom. He can never feel happy sitting in that classroom. It is just like that when a bird is kept inside a cage and the bird is asked to sing a song, the bird can never sing. Okay. In the next line, how can a child when fears annoy? Annoy means disturb. How can a child when mentally disturbed, he is irritating and he is fearful, and you are saying that you should be happy? Is it possible? No, never. It is not possible. It can never be possible. Unwillingly, if somebody is doing any work, that work cannot be done perfectly. This is the reality. But if you are ready to do something, that thing can be done far better, in a far better way. Okay. So here, the poet is saying, how can the bird that is born for joy sit in a cage and sing? So he is saying that a bird is sitting in the cage and you are expecting that the bird will sing. No, the bird will never sing happily. He is comparing himself. He is sitting in the classroom. He is comparing the classroom with a cage. And you expect that the poet will be happy. No, the poet will never be happy. How can a child, when fears annoy, when the child is mentally disturbed, the child is irritating and he is full of fear, then you are expecting that the child will be happy? No, he will never be happy. But droop his tender wing You know, the child is comparing himself with a bird. The child cannot do his favorite activities in the school that he was doing at home in summer vacations. So now he is in control. As a bird which is flying in the sky freely, the bird can fly anywhere. The bird can sit in any tree. Okay, the bird can go anywhere, and the bird can fly as much as the bird wants to go up. So you are expecting that the child is sitting in the classroom. It means the bird is sitting in the cage and the bird can fly? No, never. The bird will sit there with the wings down. Okay, the bird will keep the wings down. The bird cannot fly. In the same way, the child is sitting in the classroom and you are expecting that the child can do his favorite activities. No, he will have to sit there quietly. He will have to sit in the classroom in full of discipline and forget his youthful spring. Youthful spring means childhood activities, and the child will have to forget his mischievous activities of childhood. That child, the poet, will have to forget. The poet will have to forget his mischievous childhood activities in the classroom. As a bird forgets to fly when it is inside a cage. In the same way, the poet is inside the classroom. He will have to forget his childhood mischievous activities. I think this paragraph is also clear to you. There is no problem up to now. Well, the next paragraph. O father and mother, if birds are nipped, nipped means destroy, stop from growing. Okay, and birds means small unflourished flowers. Okay, when flowers take shape on branches, that is called birds. Okay, unflourished flowers, birds. O father and mother. Now the poet is questioning to his father and mother. He is questioning to his parents. He is asking to his parents that if birds are nipped, it means if birds are not giving a chance to grow, if the birds are destroyed in the beginning and blossoms blown away. Blossoms means the flower of blossom, the flower of cherry blossom, you know. The flower of blossom is blown away. Blown away means removed. If the flower of blossom is removed, from where the cherry will come? If the birds are destroyed, from where the flower will come? The poet is asking, O father and mother, because parents force the children to go to school for their betterment, and it is better for the children, but the thinking of the children are totally different from the parents because they are not mature. So the children are saying, the poet is saying, O father and mother, if birds are nipped, it means if birds are destroyed, removed, from where the flowers will come. If blossoms are removed, the flower of blossoms are removed, from where the cherry will come? The fruit of cherry. And if the tender plants are stripped means deprived of their leaves. If the tender means soft. If the soft plants are deprived of their leaves, how will they grow? If the small plants are kept away from their leaves, okay, then how will the plants grow? By sorrow and cares dismayed. Definitely they will feel sorrow. They will feel disappointment. So the poet is comparing himself here. It is also metaphor. The poetic device metaphor the poet has used in this paragraph also. He is saying that he is comparing himself with a bird, he is comparing himself with the flower of blossom, he is comparing himself with a small plant. He is saying when birds are destroyed. So children, now let's begin the last paragraph of this poem. How shall the summer arise in joy? It means how will the children get joy if they do not enjoy the summer holidays or the summer fruit appear, or how shall we gather what reaps destroy? If they do not get summer holidays, how will they collect, how will they gather the joy that sorrow has destroyed? Or bless a mellowing year. Bless means to make happy. Mellowing year means middle age. And how will they make their middle age happy? You know, in middle age, they will think about their childhood mischievous activities. Whatever the mischievous activities they did in their childhood. So how will they think about those activities? So how will they make their middle age happy when the blasts of winter appear? Blast means the harshness, and winter means it is not a season, but it is symbolizing old age. And how and when will they think about the childhood activities when they will become old? How will they think about their childhood activities, whatever nuisance, whatever mischievous activities they did in their childhood? How will they think about those activities when they will become old, if they do not do any mischievous activity in their childhood, and if they are not given a chance to enjoy their life in childhood during summer vacations? So in the previous paragraph, the poet was requesting his parents, he was telling them that if the birds are destroyed in the beginning, then how can you expect about the flowers? If you destroy, if you remove the blossoms, flowers, then how can you expect cherries? And if you remove the leaves of the plants, small plants, then how can you expect trees? So without them, the life will be full of sorrow and distress. And in the last paragraph, the poet is saying that how will the life of the children be full of joy in summer season if they are not given summer holidays? Or how will they enjoy the fruits of summer season if they are not given holidays? Or how will they recover from the routine life? You know, the whole year routine, the whole year schedule make them tired, and summer holidays give them a chance to be refreshed. So how will they be refreshed from that tiring schedule? And how will they make their middle age happy when they will think about their childhood mischievous activities? And how will they think about, and what will they think about their childhood mischievous activities in their old age? What will they think about their childhood if they are not getting any chance to stay at home, and they are not getting any chance to do any mischievous activity in their childhood in the summer holidays? And what they will think in their old age, in their harshness of old age? Okay, in the old age there is no interest of the people in their life. So they think about their childhood and they feel very happy. So if they are not given a chance, children are not given a chance to enjoy their holidays, children are not given a chance to enjoy their holidays with their parents, their friends, so what will they think? If they are stopped from doing their mischievous activities, their favorite activities, if they are stopped, so what they will think in their old days? How will they feel happy in their old days? They will be having nothing to think about their life in old days. So if they are not having any childhood incident. So the poet is saying that let him stay at home. Don't send the poet to school. Means he is talking about all children. He is saying that in summer season, don't send children to the the school, let them enjoy their life at home. I think you can understand better because you are at this age. You are pressurized by the parents to go to school, but they are doing it all for your betterment. But you think that they are forcing you, and unwillingly, reluctantly you go to school, but it is for your betterment. Well, the poet wants to express the fear, the disappointment of the school-going children through this poem. I hope that you all have understood this poem well, and now I want to talk to you about the rhyming scheme in this poem, in what way the poet has composed this poem. Okay, so let's talk about the rhyming scheme. Rhyming scheme means the last word, the sound of the last word. Okay, so the first paragraph, let's talk about the first paragraph, morn. Okay, and the second line, last word is tree. Third line, the last word is all. Fourth line is me. Fifth line is company. Okay, so you have to give a separate alphabet to every line, every word. Okay, and if the sound of that word is matching with any other word in the poem, then you will give the same alphabet to that word. Okay, so morn, you have given it A. Tree, the sound of morn and tree are not matching with each other, so it is B. Next is horn. Morn and horn are matching with each other, it is A. Same alphabet. Me and tree are matching with each other, it is B. Now tree, me and company, three are matching with each other, so again it is B. Okay, this is first paragraph. Now let's see in the second paragraph the rhyming scheme. The first word is morn. The second word is away. The third word is out, gone. Fourth, day. And fifth is dismay. Okay? So, morn and morn are matching with each other. So, you will give the same alphabet to this word A. Okay? But away is not matching with any word in the poem. So, it is totally different. So, you will give it to C. Okay? The sound of morn is different, away is different, but morn and gone, outgone is matching with each other, so you will give the same alphabet to it, A. Okay? Next is away and day, matching with each other, so it is C. And dismay, away, day and dismay, C and C. It means the first line, the first word, okay, this word of the first line is matching with the third word, and the second word, okay, this word of the second line is matching with fourth and fifth. This pattern has been followed here also. Morn is first line, this is second, okay, again this is first, this is third line actually, and this is fourth and fifth. So first word is matching with the third one, and the second is matching with fourth and fifth. In the same way here, first one is matching with third one, and second is matching with fourth and fifth. Okay, first is matching with third one, and second with fourth and fifth. The same pattern is here. The poet has followed the same pattern in the whole poem. Means first, last word of first line, the sound of the last word of the first line is matching with the sound of the last word of third line, and the sound of the last word of second line is matching with the sound of the last word of fourth line and fifth line. This pattern has been followed by the poet in the whole poem. You can see yourself when you read this poem. Okay, so if you are asked the whole overall rhyming scheme of this poem, then you will say that the overall rhyming scheme of this poem is A, B, A, B, B. A, B, A, B, B. This is the overall rhyming scheme of the poem. Children, I hope that you have enjoyed this poem a lot, and I hope that you will revise this poem, and in the next video I will teach you chapter number 17, which is the last chapter of half yearly syllabus. Goodbye.